All right, so I am ready to get started on creating my knight. I'm going to use this knight as inspiration for the knight that I'm going to be creating, but using this knight for my knight fight isn't going to be very helpful to me because I can't really manipulate his body parts separately. All I can really do is have this character move forward and backwards across my screen, and that's not very exciting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this character using shapes and line tools in order to have it be such that I can kind of manipulate each piece of him separately. I'm going to start by thinking about the main structures of his body. So I'm going to start with his head. I'm going to go up to shapes. I'm going to pick a shape, and I'm just going to make the circle part of his face. Now, notice that even though on my little image I'm seeing only, move this out of the way, this section of his face, I'm going to create the whole circle so that I have the option then to maybe have him put his helmet down at some point or put his helmet up at some point and not have to worry about what's going on with his face behind there. So I'm going to go ahead and just change the color and then change the line to be transparent, and there I have the start of his face. Now I can use additional pieces, maybe something like this, to create other parts of my knight. Or I could go on to something like Google and find images of a face, eyes, nose, mouth, and put those onto there. If I do that, I just want to make sure that when I'm searching, I set um, it to be with a transparent background, so that when I bring that face in, it isn't have that white pattern around it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my knight's face, and then I'll jump back in and show you the next step. Okay, so I added some eyes from Google, I added a nose from Google, and then I just wanted to show you that I'm actually going to use the curve shape right now to make his mouth, and I've decided to do that instead of grabbing something from Google, just because then what I can do is later on I can manipulate his mouth shape better. So by doing it this way, maybe I'll just make it a solid color for now. By doing it this way, I can have him be happy at the beginning, but then as we go, I can manipulate where those different points are to maybe make it so that he's surprised about what's happening. And then if he loses, eventually he's sad about what happened. So I can manipulate each of those pieces of his mouth separately because I made it myself. So I'm going to undo, get it back to my smiling happy knight. He's ready to go. For right now, because I want all those pieces to stay together, I'm going to go over all of them, and I'm just going to group that so that that piece, if I try to move it, will move all together. I'm going to work now on his helmet, and I can kind of see that there's two layers of his helmet here. I'm going to want the main part of his helmet that goes over the top, and then I'm going to build the visor separately so that I can have that raise and lower. So again, if I go into shapes, I'm looking for kind of that top shape of his helmet. This looks like it'll work if I rotate it. Fit that onto his head. Might be a little big. And then think about if that's what I want the shape of his helmet to be. Another good option, if you've created a little bit rounder head, would be something like this one, where you have that curve shape built in. Or you can do the pie, and you could actually line up the pie with the head you created and then drag it to be half a pie so that it really fits that shape that you made. All right, so there's his helmet. And then if I want that visor part that's going to come down, I'm going to need to kind of create that shape. So I will probably use this curved line again, and I can even go right over here to my little clip art guy and kind of trace that outline. To more so get the shape that I want. And then I can grab it and bring it on over, and then I might just need to shrink it a little bit if it's too wide in one direction or another. All right, so now I have that I can also kind of have his shield come down. If I want to add some of those details of some of those black, oops, too far. Some of those black lines on there, I can go back. Anything that I'm adding, I'm just doing as separate little shape files. So I would go back in and add some rectangles to make that what it is. It might even just help to do this a little bit darker just to get some contrast. So now if I zoom out, you can see how my knight is starting off. Now I need to do the same thing to create his body, his arms, and his legs. A couple of notes on the arms and the legs is I would create those as separate pieces as well, using either curved lines or shapes that you find in here. Maybe like a curved rectangle shape might work for his arms or his legs. You want those each to be separate pieces as well. I'm just going to show you that I would even do maybe like a part here and then a part here. Because the more little pieces you have to manipulate, the more natural you're going to be able to make the movement look. And when you get rid of the border colors on that, I'm going to make the fill color something that you can really see. So not that you'd want your knight to have yellow armor, but if I get rid of the borders on that, it's going to look like it's one complete piece when I bring it over here. But eventually, when I want my knight to be fighting, I can individually rotate these pieces so that his arm can bend like an arm would and swing that sword up and down. And so the more individual pieces you kind of create in order to create your knight, the better off you're going to be. In my case, he has a shield in this hand. I would still make the complete arm. Then if you want to put the shield in front of it, that's fine, but that'll allow you to have him move the shield in and out. Same thing with the legs. His armor comes down pretty far, but I would make the legs actually go up to where the hip is, so that if you want his knee to bend, you have that option as well. I'm going to go ahead and add in his body, his arms, and his legs, and then I'll jump back in to show you a couple final details. All right, so as you can see, I went ahead and added the arm elements, the leg elements, body element, and now I'm ready for some final touches. So a couple of things about coloring. You can either use just solid colors and give them kind of that cut out of paper look, or you could think about doing some gradients, which would give it just a little bit of variation going across, which is a little more interesting. You can do custom variants. So this would be where you are choosing the colors in the variant. So you would choose on either end what the colors are, and then it'll vary it to your specifications in between. So that could give you even more control over what your knight looks like or how your knight is colored in. You can also add some of those elements like a shield by again just going to the shapes up here, finding something kind of shield-like and placing that in there. If you want to add additional design elements to the shield, you would then just have to layer other shapes on top. So for example, to get that checkerboard look, if this is going to be the blue knight, you could layer some additional blue pieces on top and get kind of that checkerboard look that goes along with a lot of the heraldry in knights. You could checkerboard it with whatever other color you wanted. You could also go back and pull from what you designed at the beginning of the course in terms of some kind of crest or seal that you wanted to put on there. It would really be up to you what you might want to put on the shield that he's going to use to defend himself. In the other hand, you probably want to give him some kind of weapon. A sword might be applicable in this situation, or some kind of other swinging weapon that he's going to use. You could design that yourself. Otherwise, I would suggest you go over to Google and you can go ahead and just search for a clip art sword, making sure again that it has that transparent background so that when you paste it in, you aren't getting all this white area around it. So you're really just getting the image of the weapon that they're going to fight with. Now, the great news is once you get one character made, as long as you're okay with it kind of looking like your knight is fighting themselves, or you're okay with going in and making some modifications to make it a little bit more customized, you can actually just copy and paste all of the elements that you have designed and then reverse it. So if this is what my knight is going to look like, this is the blue knight. And then I want to have him fighting the red knight. I could go right ahead and copy all of this. So I'm just drawing a box around it by clicking and holding. I'm going to copy and paste it. All those elements come over here. And then I'm going to rotate it and flip it horizontally. And now my character is ready to fight himself. I might just then go in and change up some of these colors. The blue knight versus the yellow knight. So anything that was blue, I'm going to go ahead and change to yellow. My yellow sword. And now I'm ready to have my two knights fight, which I will go through in the next video. So step one of creating your stop motion fight is to just create the two characters that are going to be in battle. One of them should be a knight. You can then have that knight battle against another knight, or if you want to create some kind of mythical thing for it to fight against, like a dragon of some kind, you could do that instead.